A star who once earned thousands of dollars a week died in a rented home, leaving behind unpaid bills. Another legend had to rely on friends to cover his funeral expenses. One man once topped the American box office, yet when he died, his entire estate was worth no more than an old used car. Hollywood sold the public a beautiful dream. Limousines pulled up beside the red carpet, camera flashes went off non-stop, and the press called these stars immortal. But money in that world was sometimes nothing more than an illusion. It arrived quickly, disappeared even faster, and was gone precisely when the artist needed it most. In this video, I will tell the stories of 10 people who once reached the highest levels of fame, only to end their lives in poverty, debt, or dependence on the kindness of others. Some of these stories are infuriating. Some are almost impossible to believe. And the deeper we go, the more bitter they become. If you want me to explore any more movies, TV shows, or Hollywood secrets, just comment right below. And I'm Ryan. Please like and subscribe to the channel to start exploring the main content of this video with me. Judy Garland. On June 22, 1969, Judy Garland died at the age of 47 in the bathroom of a rented home in London. There was no luxurious mansion, no staff of servants, and none of the financial security people normally imagine when they think of a Hollywood legend. Judy once moved all of America with her portrayal of Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. But her real life never led her to a peaceful land like the one she found on screen. For The Wizard of Oz, Judy was paid about $9,600. By the mid-1940s, she could earn as much as $5,000 a week at MGM. However, that enormous income did not help her build lasting wealth. Money constantly passed through the hands of her managers, including David Begelman and Freddie Fields, while unpaid tax bills continued to accumulate. Judy was famous around the world, yet she had almost no control over her own finances. In the summer of 1967, Judy performed 27 shows at the Palace Theater in New York and reportedly earned more than $200,000. In the press, it was presented as a glorious comeback, but most of the money was quickly used to pay old debts and tax obligations. Her declining health and constant financial pressure forced her to go to London, where she accepted a 5-week performance contract worth about £2,500 per week. It was not simply another tour. It was almost the final lifeline for someone who had already become deeply exhausted. When Judy died, her estate was estimated by many sources to be worth only about $40,000, an astonishingly small amount compared with the value she had created for Hollywood. The most painful part was not simply that she had lost her money, but that she had lost control of her own life, while her image and voice continued generating profits for other people. The girl who once took the entire world to Oz ultimately could not find a place that truly belonged to her. And the next case is even stranger. An immortal horror icon whose funeral expenses became the subject of rumors after his death. Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi was buried wearing his Dracula cape with the ring on his hand and the appearance that had turned him into a legend. Many people believed this had been his final wish, but the decision was actually made by his son and his former wife, Lillian Arch. The character that gave Lugosi immortality on screen ultimately became the clothing that covered him in death, even though Lugosi had never requested to be buried that way. After Lugosi died at the age of 73 in his Los Angeles apartment, 2 stories quickly spread that he had died while holding the script for a new movie and that Frank Sinatra had paid all of his funeral expenses. However, later records showed that it was actually Lugosi's family who carried those costs. Lillian reportedly paid for the burial plot and headstone, while his widow Hope paid for the coffin and the service at the Utter McKinley Funeral Home before he was buried at Holy Cross Cemetery. The role of Dracula in 1931 turned Lugosi's face, voice, and posture into a permanent part of movie history. Yet he received only about $3,500 for the film and never built wealth that matched his fame. Hollywood preserved the image of Count Dracula while gradually forgetting the man behind it. As the years passed, Lugosi moved further and further away from the position that had once made him known to millions of people. In his will, Lugosi left only about $1,000 in cash to his widow. There was no mansion hidden treasure or enormous fortune like the public may have imagined. The bitter irony was that in the eyes of audiences, he had not merely played Dracula, he had almost become Dracula. But the immortality of the role did not provide him with a stable life. At least Lugosi was buried in the image the world recognized. The next woman was different. She had once been one of the most striking beauties of the 1940s. But years later, she was discovered working as a waitress under another name. Veronica Lake. In 1962, a reporter from the New York Post recognized Veronica Lake working at the Martha Washington Hotel in Manhattan under the name Connie Detley. Just 2 decades earlier, she had been a Hollywood glamour icon, famous for the hair that fell across one eye, and an income reportedly reaching about $4,500 per week. But her reputation for being difficult to work with, her alcohol use, and the harsh changes taking place in the movie industry caused the roles to disappear. Once the publicity machine stopped operating, even a face once copied by women across America could quickly be forgotten. Lake's financial crisis became increasingly serious. Her mother once sued her for failing to provide financial support, while Lake was reportedly forced to sell or pawn jewelry to survive. In 1951, when her marriage to director André de Toth collapsed, the couple filed for bankruptcy. The 1962 newspaper article inspired members of the public to send her money, but Lake refused it because she did not want to be seen as a beggar. She insisted that she could still afford the $190 monthly rent for her room, trying to preserve her dignity after losing almost everything else. The press attention brought Lake a few brief opportunities on stage and in movies, such as Footsteps in the Snow and Flesh Feast, but it could not restore her career. Her later years were connected with inexpensive hotels, temporary jobs, and incidents involving public intoxication. In her 1969 autobiography, Veronica Lake spoke openly about her drinking, her failed relationships, and the guilt she felt for not being fully present in the lives of her children. She did not try to portray herself as a perfect victim. Instead, she publicly revealed some of the most painful parts of her life. In 1973, Veronica Lake died from acute hepatitis and kidney failure after years of heavy alcohol use. Her simple memorial service in Manhattan was paid for by her friend Donald Bain, while her ashes were reportedly held because an outstanding fee had not been settled. A woman who once earned thousands of dollars per week ultimately became associated with a storage fee of only about $200. Hollywood once made money from her hair, her eyes, and her beauty, but almost completely disappeared when she needed help the most. The next star faded into silence. For even longer, she had once been a rebellious icon of silent film, but later had to work in a department store and survive through the private financial support of others. Louise Brooks. Louise Brooks once estimated that her entire professional career had earned her about $124,600. Although the individual earnings listed in her memoir did not perfectly match that total. What is significant is that Brooks admitted she had barely cared about money when she was young. In the late 1920s, her black, bobbed hair, challenging gaze, and modern attitude turned her into an icon of silent cinema. But her refusal to submit and her risky career decisions caused her career to end early, because Hollywood rarely forgave a woman who refused to follow its rules. After leaving the screen, Brooks lived in West Hollywood in a rented home that cost about $55 per month and worked as an advertising editor. In 1940, she lost $2,000 in a stock fraud scheme, an amount equal to many months of living expenses. Brooks moved to New York and tried working in public relations, but she was quickly fired. She was forced to move repeatedly into cheaper accommodations before accepting a sales job at Saks Fifth Avenue in 1946 for about $40 per week. Customers could walk past her without realizing that the woman serving them had once been one of the most recognizable faces of the silent film era. Brooks's personal life did not provide stability either. She received financial support from several wealthy men, but still owned almost nothing of significant value. During one period of crisis, Brooks threw the unfinished manuscript of her autobiography into a furnace and burned it, causing many stories about Hollywood's darker side to disappear forever. In her later years, she survived on a modest allowance from William Paley, the founder of CBS. That assistance allowed Brooks to live, but it also showed that an icon who had helped shape popular culture was forced to depend on the kindness of someone else. On August 8, 1985, Louise Brooks died from a heart attack in a small apartment in Rochester, New York. She left behind no great fortune and never experienced a glorious comeback. Ironically, Brooks's reputation only truly began to grow after she had left the screen, when critics started recognizing her as a major cinematic icon. But that delayed recognition could not pay her rent during the years when she was still alive. From a woman forgotten by Hollywood, the next story takes us to a black performer who earned millions of dollars and was mourned by tens of thousands of people, yet had almost no cash left when he died. Bill Bojangles Robinson. Bill Bojangles Robinson once spent $1,240.70 to install a traffic light at a dangerous intersection in Richmond. That detail demonstrated the generosity of a performer who had reached an income level that very few black entertainers of his era could achieve. In 1937, he was reportedly earning about $6,600 per week from performing, and his total lifetime earnings may have exceeded $2 million. With his precise, graceful, and seemingly effortless dance steps, Robinson not only became a national star, but also broke through numerous barriers in an entertainment industry filled with inequality. Yet the man who once earned millions ultimately died in financial hardship. Some of Robinson's wealth was used to help friends and members of his community, with the traffic light in Richmond serving as the most famous example. However, generosity was not the only reason. He was also described as a heavy spender who especially loved gambling. Dice games and repeated losses caused his money to disappear constantly. The ability to dominate a stage did not automatically come with the ability to manage wealth outside the theater. Robinson died from heart failure in New York on November 25, 1949. His estate was reported to be worth less than $25,000. But most of that value was tied up in personal possessions and some real estate rather than cash. Outstanding debts made the situation even more difficult, leaving him without enough money to pay for his own funeral. In the end, television host Ed Sullivan stepped forward to organize and cover the cost of the service. Robinson's coffin was placed at the 369th Infantry Regiment Armory in Harlem, where approximately 32,000 people came to pay their respects. Tens of thousands of people loved him, but the affection of the public could not be converted into financial security. That was the bitter contradiction of fame. Robinson was enormously wealthy in influence, but he did not have enough cash to take care of the final chapter of his life. The next story is even darker, as a promising studio actress was dragged through prison psychiatric hospitals, laundry work, and failed investments. Frances Farmer. On January 21, 1943, Frances Farmer was taken to the psychiatric ward of Los Angeles County General Hospital under a court order, beginning the darkest chapter of her life. Only a few years earlier, Farmer had been a promising actress who signed a 7-year contract with Paramount for approximately $100 per week and appeared alongside Bing Crosby in Rhythm on the Range. But her refusal to submit, combined with problems involving alcohol and her mental health, gradually brought her into conflict with the studio system. In October 1942, Farmer was arrested on suspicion of driving while intoxicated, fined $500, and given 180 days of probation. She paid only half of the fine, causing another arrest warrant to be issued in early 1943. Farmer was subsequently moved in and out of psychiatric institutions. In 1945, she was returned to Western State Hospital in Washington, where she remained until March 1950. By the time she was released, Hollywood had moved on without her, and there was almost no career left for her to return to. Farmer worked in the laundry department of a hotel in Seattle, and later as an office employee in Eureka, California. After her mother died in 1955, she inherited the family home and sold it for approximately $5,500. From 1958 until 1964, Farmer found a period of relative stability working in local television in Indianapolis. She was no longer a movie star, but she at least had a job, a steady income, and a clear position within the community. After her television job ended, Farmer tried operating a decorating service and invested in a cosmetics project, but both ventures failed and consumed the money she had left. She was forced to move through a series of rented homes and spent some time living on a farm near Indianapolis. In the spring of 1970, Farmer was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and she died on August 1st of that year, leaving behind almost no significant assets. Hollywood had loved her rebellious nature when it could still sell tickets, but quickly closed its doors when everything became complicated. And Barbara Payton's story takes us even further downward into a world where one romantic scandal could destroy an entire career in only a few months. Barbara Payton. In February 1967, Barbara Payton was found unconscious near a garbage bin in a parking lot on Sunset Boulevard. That image was almost impossible to believe when compared with the woman Hollywood had once paid thousands of dollars per week. In 1949, she signed a contract with Universal with a starting salary of approximately $100 per week. Because of her striking beauty and powerful energy, Payton quickly attracted attention, at one point earning as much as $5,000 per week and appearing to be on the verge of a long career. The turning point came in September 1951, when the romantic scandal involving Payton Francho Tone and Tom Neal exploded after Neal assaulted Tone at her home. The press immediately turned Payton into the center of the story, and her name became associated not with acting, but with violence and scandal. In classical Hollywood, men could often survive public controversy, while women were more likely to be permanently condemned by it. Payton tried to take advantage of the attention by touring with Tom Neal, but the public's curiosity could not help her regain professional respect. Her later roles became increasingly small and were mostly in low-budget productions such as The Flanagan Boy, Four-Sided Triangle, and Bad Blonde. In 1963, Payton published her memoir, I Am Not Ashamed, in an attempt to earn money and regain control over the telling of her own story. However, her career continued to decline, her money disappeared, and her alcohol use became increasingly serious. Some sources even claimed that she was forced to sell sex for only a few dollars, although those accounts should be treated cautiously. After she was found unconscious, Payton returned to live with her parents in San Diego and died on May 8, 1967. She left behind the story of a career that burned brightly for a very short time before being destroyed by scandal, chaotic choices, and the cruelty of an industry that was always ready to replace people. Hollywood and the press created the image of a scandalous woman, profited from it, and then punished Payton for being unable to escape that very image. With Harry Langdon, the next tragedy began. With a confident, professional decision, he believed he no longer needed the man who had helped create his greatest success. Harry Langdon. At one point, Harry Langdon was ranked alongside Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and Harold Lloyd as one of the 4 greatest faces of silent comedy. With his innocent expression and the appearance of a child lost in the adult world, he created an unmistakable style and once earned as much as $7,500 per week. His 2 most successful films, The Strong Man and Long Pants, were closely connected with director Frank Capra, who understood how to use Langdon's fragile screen persona. However, Langdon fired Capra because he wanted complete control over his own films, a decision that became the disastrous turning point of his career. When Langdon began managing his own projects, box office earnings repeatedly declined. Audiences lost interest, and his contract was terminated. In early 1931, he filed for bankruptcy with total debts of approximately $62,000, but declared only about $700 in assets. He also faced unpaid taxes, support payments to a former wife, and debts connected with lawsuits. At one point, Langdon reportedly owed the government about $30,000 in taxes and more than $11,000 in a separation case. Only a few years earlier, his weekly income had been greater than the total value of everything he owned when he declared bankruptcy. Langdon never regained his position as a leading star. He accepted minor roles, including one in Hallelujah, I'm a Bum, that reportedly earned him approximately $20,000, but most of the money had to be used for support payments. When acting no longer provided enough money to live on, he tried composing music before moving into screenwriting and creating comedy situations for other performers. The man who had once stood at the center of the screen, receiving the audience's laughter, was now working behind the scenes, using his talent to help other people shine. Those writing jobs only allowed Langdon to survive. They did not bring him a comeback or any savings for old age. He died on December 22, 1944, at the age of 60, and his old friend Vernon Dent reportedly took responsibility for arranging his funeral. A performer once placed beside Chaplin ultimately had to depend on friends during the final stage of his life. But while Langdon's tragedy began with excessive confidence, the next story started with an accident. Florence Lawrence helped create the idea of the movie star before her health and finances were destroyed on a film set. Florence Lawrence. In 1910, Carl Laemmle publicly revealed Florence Lawrence's name, helping turn her into one of the first actors whom audiences recognized and actively sought out simply because of her identity. She is often called the first true movie star, the woman who helped shape the star system that Hollywood would use for more than a century. In 1912, Lawrence moved to the Victor Film Company with a salary of approximately $500 per week, an extraordinary income at a time when the movie industry was still in its earliest stages. Tragedy struck in 1915 on the set of Pawns of Destiny when a fire scene reportedly went out of control. Flames caught Lawrence's hair, causing her to fall and suffer serious spinal injuries. Repeated complications and periods of paralysis extended her recovery for years, taking away her health, her ability to work, and her place in the industry. Some later sources claimed that Universal refused to pay her medical expenses, even though the accident happened while she was making a movie for the studio. Lawrence's career never fully recovered. During the 1920s, she received only small roles, many of them uncredited. By 1936, MGM employed her as an extra and supporting performer for approximately $75 per week. The woman who had helped Hollywood recognize the commercial power of a famous name was now earning barely enough to survive within the very industry that had been built partly on her fame. Florence Lawrence died on December 28, 1938, in poverty. Her funeral expenses were paid by the Motion Picture Relief Fund, while her grave remained without a marker for 53 years, until Roddy McDowall financed a memorial headstone in 1991. Hollywood honored this pioneer only after she no longer needed its help. And the final name takes us to a case from a more modern era. An entertainer who once earned millions of dollars, topped the box office, succeeded on Broadway, and lived to the age of 93, yet had only about $18,000 in assets when he died. Mickey Rooney. Before the age of 20, Mickey Rooney was reportedly earning approximately $250,000 per year, and in 1939, he topped the list of box office stars. With his ability to sing, dance, perform comedy, and express deep emotion, he was once one of the most valuable faces in Hollywood. Decades later, while performing in Sugar Babies on Broadway, Rooney could reportedly earn as much as $65,000 per week. However, when he died in 2014, the reported value of his estate was only about $18,000. The disappearance of that fortune resulted from many causes, including taxes, support payments, failed marriages, gambling, lawsuits, and chaotic financial management. In 1962, Rooney filed for bankruptcy, despite being estimated to have earned approximately $12 million during his career. He declared only about $500 in personal assets while carrying nearly $465,000 in debt, including more than $116,000 in unpaid taxes and almost $23,000 in overdue support payments to 3 former wives. Gambling continued to make the situation more serious. Rooney especially loved horse racing and the casinos of Las Vegas, and one story claimed that he once lost as much as $50,000 in a single night. In 1996, he filed for bankruptcy again. Although he continued receiving roles and making repeated comebacks, the money never remained long enough to create any lasting security. When he was already in his 80s, Rooney admitted that he had almost no money and still had to tour with small productions in order to pay his bills. In 2011, Rooney accused his stepson, Christopher Aber, and Aber's wife of controlling him, pressuring him, and taking away his financial independence. The case resulted in a $2.8 million judgment in 2013. But the money that existed on paper did not bring him stability before he died on April 6, 2014. Mickey Rooney was not poor because he had never earned enough money. He became poor after earning more than most people could ever imagine. His story shows that a long career and countless comebacks still cannot guarantee a secure ending when the same financial problems continue repeating themselves for decades. There are 3 lessons I believe we should take away from these stories. The first lesson is that we must clearly understand how our money is being managed. A large income means nothing if the person earning it does not examine contracts, taxes, debts, and control over assets. The second lesson is that we should not build our entire sense of self-worth around a career. Hollywood can stop calling at any moment. Audiences can shift their attention to a new face. A person needs family, community, skills, and relationships that do not depend on professional success. The final lesson is that compassion must appear before it is too late. Do not honor artists only after they have died. Do not wait until a grave has no headstone, a funeral has not been paid for, or a memoir filled with pain appears before calling someone a legend. Which person surprised you the most? Whose downfall do you believe was the most unfair? And who should bear the greatest responsibility for their own choices? Share your thoughts in the comments, because I truly want to know how you see these stories. Do not forget to like, subscribe to Ryan's Hollywood Uncovered, and turn on the notification bell so you will not miss the next investigations into old Hollywood hidden secrets and the tragedies behind perfect images. I'm Ryan. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. Appreciate artists while they are still here, but also remember to value your own life more than money, fame, or the approval of any crowd. I'll see you in the next video.